What the fuck? Why is that ad so long? Give me. What the hell? Okay, we gotta wait for that. Is it done yet? Is the alright? Is the ad finished? No, it says there's 40 seconds left. Fine. Alright, to anyone who can hear me, holy shit, guys. The fucking entry, like the start of the visual novel is fucking crazy. By that, I mean, like, you load up the game and there's a cutscene and it's fucking epic. Which is why I'm waiting for this ad break to end. instead of just going. Okay. Hi y'all! Oh. Hi y'all! Oh my god, the chat is so big. Hold on, chat. But I can't see. I'll make it smaller. Put it up here. Alright. Okay. Oh, I should put up the warnings. I'll do that after. Hey, y'all. Alright. Now you might be wondering, where the fuck is the game? Give me a second. It has a really cool intro, so I wanna, I wanna show y'all too. Give me, okay. Hopefully, nothing fucks up and this works out. Okay, alright. It works. Okay. Alright. Okay, are you ready? Hold on, I see you on Discord. Okay. Where is it? Right. Oh my god. Chat, I feel like we're in the way. Like, fuck. Like, oh, okay. Did that ruin the vibes? Should we start again? Alright, well, let's start again. Let's start again. They ruined the vibes. It's been a while since I'm like on itch.io. It's like mostly demos, right? Like, it's not their fault that most of the time they don't have like intros and stuff, because usually one or two people work on it. But like when you see a good like intro cutscene, it's like, oh my god. Okay, hold on. Right. This is so... Oh. Like, what? I was like, oh my god. Yeah, that's me. Alright, it's me and you, Will. If you want to join me on Discord too, I can do that. Someone else is here. Wait, no, it's you. Why are you reacting to your own message? Yeah, like actually, yes. You want to join? Come here. Okay, this one. Where are the foodies? Oh, I make the foodies real big. What? I lost them. Anytime. Alright, let's start. Okay. Take your time. Right. Hold on. Hey, I'm back. I forgot. I have two. I can mute myself on OBS and then I can mute my mic. So I was like, oh yeah, everything's fine. I forgot about the light right across my face. Safe word. Slightly concerned that it needs one, but good to know. Any suggestions? I feel like I'm gonna forget about it anyway. Not in like a mean way, but in like I don't have that kind of memory space. Way. Where is it? Where's the game? To be fair, there's... Oh. What? What? I wonder when this will come up. I'm just gonna type in my own name. Oh shit. Oh. Okay. The, alright, the X key and the button. Alright. Oh. Okay. Ah. Alright. Oh. Oh. Okay. I forgot to do a bunch of preferences. um. Music volume. Roll back side. Please, I need it. Return. Can always be made visible in the preferences menu. Please enjoy Obscura. I sure hope we do. No one goes into the mountain without a reason. Ooh. Ooh! Gate guard. Purpose of business? Myself. Buying. No one takes their past into the mountain. How are you going to pay? Some funds. Some work. Good luck with that. Everyone knows what it means when you go. No one says anything about it. Give me your bags. The guard looks through my things with perfect efficiency. Bored, they start asking me questions. What are you going to be called down there? This is really funny because I'm currently playing. I have a D&D. I'm in a D&D campaign, and one of the other player characters is called Vesper. So this is super amusing to me. Wow. Alright, we good. Sorry. My brother came in to ask for some shit because he was staying over at his girlfriend's house, and I was like, bitch, you don't need my help. Go get it. Whatever. Anyway, alright, here we go. Alec. Good choice. Thanks! I chose this name when I was like 12. You have a mask? No one would sell me one. Not a problem here. If you're buying, we're selling. The gate guard waves to the masks hanging around the entrance, perhaps once worn by other visitors. The masks are an old custom, plausible deniability. We're all faceless strangers under the mountain. Pick your poison. Ooh! Ooh! Yo, this sounds cool. Wait. Ah! Charcoal colored one with worn lace and gold trim. Flowery details. You know what? Red. Hello, red. I take a mask off the wall and fit it to my face. It weighs on my hand, but my mind feels lighter. I see my reflection in the mirror. Ooh! Oh my god! Wait. That's so cool. Wait, what's that? Oh shit. I wish I could see it closer. Oh well, it is. It is what it is. What? The people under the mountain have beautiful taste. I hand the gate guard the money owed. Welcome to the marketplace. They step aside, allowing me passage into the tunnel on the side of the mountain. I begin my descent. I don't have chat up. At first I have to wonder if I've been tricked in some way. The passage grows narrow, the air stale, and the path uneven. I'm walking by the last feeble threads of light that reach this deep. Ooh. But then I see something. A shimmering pale blue glow from around the corner. I fight through the narrowing walls until I am able to turn the corner. The passage suddenly widens. Then it opens. Ooh! The nice music is back. Hello? I step from the passage into a cavern, so massive I can hardly see the end of it. The marketplace. There are several masked people who are seated or leaning against the walls around this little entryway, and now they're approaching me. Welcome, newcomer. A fresh face. Someone new could use a guide, couldn't they? Hucksters, or perhaps petty thieves, looking for an easy mark. My valuables are kept under my heavy robe, safe from pickpockets. I steel myself and march forward, past the strangers. There is no logic to this place. A fishmonger selling dried and salted fish sits next to a bookseller with stacks of forbidden tomes. A fungus man! A what now? Oh my god. Wait, I'm gonna turn myself down. I feel like I'm gonna be yelling. A fungus man and bird keeper are bickering. If they weren't obvious scams, I could have taken one of the offers for a guide and saved myself some time. At first, I glance at each stall in turn. Out here nearest the entry tunnel, all of the stalls are selling simple amenities or cheap thrills. Maybe the sorts of things a departing traveler might want to have when they ascend. Not what I'm looking for. It's not here. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be. Asking one of the sellers, I get directions. The rough walls of this cavern, shifting and trembling in an unsteady candle and glowworm light, slowly turn smooth, where natural walls turn to human carved. The backgrounds are beautiful, like it's giving dark. The quality of goods The quality of goods on sale is improving as well. The cheap basics are behind me. Ahead are the rare, the luxurious, and the illicit. The real reason anyone comes here. Seeing the sign for an apothecary, an easily recognizable serpent coiling around the staff, I slip inside. Shopkeeper, welcome. Do we think this NPC gives grandma vibes or grandpa maybe? And I thought I would only need like a little bit of water. I think I'm gonna have to get an actual water bottle. Welcome. The shopkeeper is masked, of course, but that is not what grabs my attention. The din of hundreds of voices selling and buying and negotiating in the echoing caves is muffled. But not by much. That is because while the apothecary has 4 walls, there's no roof over the store. Newcomer, huh? What? You must be a fresh arrival. And why would you say that? You're staring where the ceiling should be. Ah. I suppose in a city with no sun or rain, roofs are unnecessary. Only thing a roof keeps out in the marketplace is thieves. A common weather pattern here? Far too common. Hello, Nix. We're playing a really cool looking visual novel. It is an 18 plus game with dark themes, so be warned. I make an effort to examine the apothecary's mask. It's plainer even than mine. Perhaps he is frugal, or perhaps he is poor by the standards of the marketplace. Well, you weren't driven in here by the weather. What do you need? I'm looking for lunar ichor. I resist the urge to explain my circumstances to the shopkeeper. No matter how meaningless or petty they seem, my secrets are one of the few resources I have in these depths. You have expensive taste, or terrible luck. What I don't have is a lunar ichor. Is that something you can remedy, apothecary? No. If money is a concern, I can make arrangements. It's not the money. I could never afford to stock the damnable ichor. Even if I could, I doubt I would be able to stomach it. The rumors were true then. That is unfortunate. Where does one go then, to find that damnable ichor? Smuggler dens, the vaults of the lords of the market, or perhaps you could take a knife to the lunar god. Failing that, the auction house may provide. It's the largest house this side of the ruby walls. Even has a roof. The apothecary cannot see my smile, but I hope he can hear it. I thank you for your timely advice, sir. Save your thanks for the lunar god. It'll be a miracle if you get that, Iker. God damn, who is this lunar god? I take my leave of the shop. The noise rises again from loud to deafening. There are tunnels and additional caverns in all directions, but I continue the way I was going. If the walls are getting smoother and the buildings more beautiful, then I am approaching the richest part of the market. It stands to reason that is where the auction house will be. Keeping my eyes up, it takes no time to find the auction house. It is, as the apothecary said, the largest house in this side of the ruby walls. There are long chains of glowworms draped over the promised ridge roof that dangle and sway as the air shifts in the cavern. The building itself is deep garnet red with gilded trim. Holy shit! Message received. You're very wealthy, whoever built this. The doors, covered in tiny engravings, impossible to interpret in the dim lights, are wide open. Bright golden lamplight pours out into the street. People are freely milling in and out, and so I slip inside. I am underdressed for the occasion, but neither of the guards standing at the doors move to stop me. The sound of the outside suddenly dims, and I have to blink against the sudden brightness. I can hear my own muffled footsteps as I cross the plush carpet deeper into the auction house. The whispered conversation through masks make a thin fog of sound compared to the din outside. The signs are in a language I do not recognize, but I can make some educated guesses. The ornate double doors standing locked and guarded must lead to the actual auction hall. There is a short, uncarpeted hall with gleaming, polished floors lined with several doors. Hold on. Lozenge. After a second, I see a giggling pair exit one of the rooms and straighten their clothes. That explains that, then. There's one door that is little more than a window on hinges, left open. I peer inside for a second, only to see an ordinary office. Come in. Oh, it's giving Ben was it that guy? Whoever that guy with the kite. I don't know. He's called Ben, and he's American, I think. And he's old. The stranger sitting behind the desk waves to me, and so I step inside. Pardon me, I didn't mean to intrude. You can't intrude on the bookkeeper. I must always be available. You must be? How else could anyone check to ensure I am not meddling in the books? Does it really come to that? Well, I have no such concerns. A buyer, are you? Couldn't I simply be a browser? Oh. That's a good line to to an ad for like Opera GX or whatever. Haha. You really believe someone would come to the marketplace to the auction house just looking to see what they find? I suppose someone must have, in all of history. Well, if that's the scale you're measuring by. You, however, are not here to browse. No, I'm not. You're right. I am here to buy. Shall I show you the catalog for the next auction? I would appreciate it. The bookkeeper stands and hands me a sizable booklet. You know, it's been a while since I've had like scripted conversations with myself. I usually just like have like generic responses and then me monologuing. Do not damage it. Do not leave here with it. They open a drawer to their desk and hold up a knife. It's a little thing, but I have no doubt they could kill me with it. Then they sit again and resume their work. I flip through the book. There are objects of unimaginable value. Works of art by artists even I know by name. An exquisite jeweled tiara fit for any princess. The deed to a country manor on the surface. Oh, then there are the wonders I could have never dreamt of. The bread. The bird wreathed in flames that never burns. The still beating bloodstone heart of some rock nymph. A potion of clear vision. The main character sounds like someone who needs glasses. I flip a page and am met with the miserable exposed face of a young adult. Their posture is low and defeated, but they are beautiful. Me walking by anyone in the streets. Not me being like the beautiful, but like most people nowadays, young and miserable. The text informs me that whatever is paid in the auction will be sent to their family within the mountain. Surely not. I flip the page again. There are no other people in the catalog, but one is enough to turn my stomach. Thank you, bookkeeper. Finished already? What I want isn't in there. And what is it that you want? I'll check the history. See when it was last sold. I bite my tongue for a moment. Lunar Ichor. An unlucky one, aren't we? I couldn't say, if you would, bookkeeper. They shuffle through a notebook. Hold on. Here's. I tried to read the text, but it's nearly impossible to interpret their faint pencil scratchings. More bad luck to heap on your pile, I'm afraid. Ooh. Oh, Jesus. The last sale was 3 months back. It's unlikely we'll get another sale for months yet. Yes? What? Unless someone new comes with a stock. Couldn't be as easy, could it? And what was the final price for it? For a lot of 12. Oh, my ad manager disappeared. The number they tell me is stomach dropping. I could not gather those funds in a lifetime, even divided 12 ways. The price for a single vial is well beyond my means. My life savings weigh heavily in the coin purse under my robe. Dead weight, it seems. By your silence, I guess you don't have the money. Thank you for your time. I try to keep my voice neutral. When I leave the auction house, I momentarily lose my sight and hearing, as I adjust again to the dim, echoing cavern. I don't notice the direction my feet are taking me. My hopes for a quick visit to the marketplace have been thoroughly dashed. Now I have to determine what to do. Oh. I'll think better after some rest. At the moment, I don't trust myself to make a sensible choice. Staying on guard here in the marketplace is exhausting, and my feet ache from climbing the mountain. I need some kind of rest before I have the energy to determine what to do next. I stop by a stall and ask directions for a decent inn, rest stop, public house, anything. Following the directions through a short tunnel, I wander through a quieter district of the marketplace. Though quiet is relative. The guest house is a challenge to find, though I hesitate to call the ground down walking past roads. There are rest houses lining them on either side. The leaping bear. Wow! Hey, the leaping what now? The guest house recommended to me is nothing remarkable. The building has a roof, but the building itself is mostly made of raw wood. Sounds like a Minecraft house. The brass doorknob is smooth under my hand, polished by the thousands of guests who come and go. Inside, the atmosphere is boisterous, but on the scale of a handful of people singing a drinking song. The chaos outside is already muffled and distant. Oh, wait, it really is me. What do you mean bear mask character? You don't even have the ears. Come on now. Welcome. The woman who approaches has her face fully covered in a bear mask, but her neckline is untied and exposed. I wonder who she works for. Hello. I was told this is a good establishment to stay the night. You were told right. Except the part about night. Here, there's no real difference between night and day. My sleeping schedule. Plenty of folks are up all hours of the day as you do. Just sleeping when they're tired and forgetting the sun ever existed. Except the part... Oh, wait. Oh, yep. I see. The bare-masked woman has me sign into a guest book and pay for the night. You have the room for 24 hours. If you're staying longer, I expect you here to pay for more time. If you don't, you might find all your things at a moon shrine. I can't decide if this lunar god person is like benevolent or like some sort of like menace. I remember. Thank you. And you'll be needing these. She hands me a dull metal medallion on a leather string and a key. Dear Rufus over there. She gestures of a mountain to a mountain of a man also in a bear mask standing by a door. Make sure only guests go to the rooms. That medallion proves you're a guest. Don't lose it. Or else I'll find my things at a moonshine. Pick things up quickly, you do. Seems like an important skill to have here. Quite right. She gets back to her business, so I approach the mountain of a man guarding the door to the rooms. Hello, Rufus. I hold up the medallion and wait. I am not about to rush a man with a bat, especially one as bloodstained as his is. Then he nods, and I am granted passage. He watches me go to my assigned room. I suppose it's a good measure to prevent theft. But then so is a blood-stained bat. Sleep doesn't come easily at first. How can I risk sleeping in the marketplace? But it does come for me. In the morning, or what my body decides is morning, my resolve has hardened. Leaving the marketplace without lunar ichor would render everything I've done pointless. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I stopped trying. I'm able to order something like breakfast from the Leaping Bear's kitchen, and then sit deep in thought, staring at a bowl of porridge. Eating in this mosque is a bit of a bother. I have to navigate the spoon around the mosque. There's clasps, you know. I start at the sudden appearance of the proprietress. What? Feel along the side of the mosque. There should be pins or clasps holding the bottom part. I do as she said and find little clasps holding the two parts of my mosque together. Well, I feel like a proper fool. I already feel strange having my mouth exposed, like a funny kind of nudity. Newcomers are all a bit foolish. That's part of their charm. Thank you, I think. Just keep your wits about you. You'll live. Make it sound so dire. Well, you're here, aren't you? You're not wrong. No one comes here without good reason, I should think. What's yours? Personal matter. Buying or selling. That's all there is down here, after all. Buying. Something I might not be able to afford, it turns out. That won't narrow things down too much for her. Well, depends how you try to buy things, doesn't it? Money will get you anywhere if you have enough of it. But there's other roads out there. Is that something you know a lot about? I couldn't say. I only know what stories the guests bring in. She says it flippantly enough that there must be a story there. But I resist the urge to dig. Then I suppose my next job is to find what paths I can use. Thank you. Oh, not a problem. The masks trouble everyone at first. You just ask for Bruna if you have any more problems. I'll be happy to help. She sweeps away to handle another matter, and I'm left with far more productive thoughts. Money won't get me lunar ichor, but something else might. Influence, friendship, violence, guile. My body, if it comes down to it. Anything. There's a lot to think about. Am I going to stay in a guest house for weeks or months? What possible ways are there to get lunar ichor? Let's start with one foot in front of the other. Over the next several days, I get to learn the layout of the marketplace. It's an ever-shifting rat's nest of stalls and passages and unmanaged unmanaged pathways, but there are some fixed landmarks. I can navigate somewhat comfortably by those landmarks when they are visible. One evening, based on my own internal clock, the proprietress of the Leaping Bear hints over a meal that as long as I am well behaved, she would be willing to extend more generous long-term rates to me. I wasn't planning to misbehave, even less so with Rufus keeping an eye on me, and so that settles the matter of lodging for the moment. As for the lunar ichor, I am at a loss. It is rare, absurdly rare, and based on the reactions of those I speak to about it, some aspect of it is very taboo. Likely the condition it treats. Ooh! Ooh! Everything is so mysterious, including like the main character. I'm just saying, what? Who is she? Bum 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 bum. Oh yeah, there's on the on the actual snaps. On the actual page of the game on itch.io, there's an ending guide, which I will go through later. Is it like, okay, wait, hold on a second. Alright, I don't know if you remember the people from the start, from the cutscene, but I don't, so we'll pull up. So this is, I literally was just like, okay, let's find the cover image of the game. And is there anyone this catching anyone's eyes? I personally am into whatever that guy with the snake and like long white hair has, or the guy beside him, like, you know. Anyone else? Boom, boom, boom. I don't even know what their names are. Let me know. They all look very beautiful, though. Anyway. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm wondering one of the quieter passage is clearly natural by how uneven the ground is. It's mostly homes, built on whatever smooth patch of stone the builder could find. But there is one that towers over the rest. Oh! A tall church with heavy oaken doors. Where normally I would expect to see a golden 10-point solar sigil. Instead, there is a more simplistic, crescent-shaped one, the lunar sigil. Ah, I suppose the solar god isn't much help down here. I have seen the eerie blue-green light of glowworms and the smoky gold of lanterns, but I have not seen the sun since I started my descent. Churches dedicated to the lunar god exist outside the mountain, but not in any significant numbers. The lunar god. Lunar ichor. Couldn't hurt to ask, could it? I'm not sure I believe that the lunar god must bleed for there to be lunar ichor, but there's no harm in checking. What the hell? Hey! Stop! I halted my path instinctively, Although after a moment I can see no one was speaking to me. Instead, there is a raucous crowd gathering just down the tunnel, shouting and tussling. A few people in utilitarian masks and what look like uniforms are trying to push their way through. Looks like trouble. Save. Oh, wait. Oh, well, I guess. Okay. I didn't even mean to click that. I was moving my mouse. In my haste to escape the ruckus outside, I scramble towards the entrance. Then once I ascertain that they aren't locked, I slip through the imposing massive oak doors. Whenever someone mentions like oak or like Minecraft trees, I just start imagining like the buildings as like Minecraft. The carvings in the wood press into my palms. A surprisingly comforting, grounding sensation. Then once the doors close, the change in atmosphere hits me. Oh! Oh my god! First is the smell. Candle smoke, heavy incense, and cold crumbling stone. Then comes the solemn silence. Hold on. Beep, beep, beep. I'm waiting. Obscura! This is it! Obscura! Yes. Yeah, this is a crazy Minecraft update, honestly. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Ba-da-dum. Hold on. Alright. Is the ad almost over? Did anyone actually get ads? If you can hear me, did you get an ad? Or if you're getting this after your ad ended, did you get an ad? Then comes the solemn silence, the kind that reminds you of your place within these holy walls and the oppressively tall ceiling. I'm finally alone, even for just a little while. I take that moment to release the breath I was holding and take in my surroundings. This is where the inhabitants of the underground come to worship the lunar god. It's also a reminder. A reminder that I still haven't found any adequate leads for the Icar. When I take a couple steps down the carpeted path between the aisles, I suddenly make out a figure behind the altar. They're wearing long robes. A priest, maybe? Oh. Love holy figures in this channel. Excuse me? I call out, taking care to not raise my voice too loud. You don't need to raise your voice. It's a church. It's gonna echo. The person shuffles around, and I see their mask too. Although this comes as no surprise, it's an unfortunate realization. Even those in service of the lunar god aren't safe from the microplace. What? Hi. Oh. So hello, Gishichi. Have you played Obscura? Hold on. Hi? The music changed too? Oh! Oh my god! I feel... Oh wait, what the fuck did I just click? Oh god, I just opened RunP by accident. No! I feel underdressed. I feel too like light and bouncy for this game. What the hell? Let me find one of the other mottos. Holy shit. Oh! You know what? I forgot I had this. Boop boop. Oh wait, 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 it's not what it looks like. I'm just trying to change outfits. Alright. B. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Alright, why I forgot my own fucking left shift? Alright. Alright. Forgot how boobs this is. This model looks so tanned. It's very summer me vibes. But like, hello? Oh my god. As they approach, I noticed a distinct glimmer of a golden brooch nestled between the folds of their clothes, proof of their holy devotion. This is because my brain is rotted. But the blue shawl with the patterns reminds me a lot of Ike Eveland. But that's because my brain is completely rotted with Niji Sanji and their entire appearance is refined and almost ethereal. A rich silken voice. I don't have that. It takes me off guard. Yeah. Do my ears deceive me, or has another fight broken out? Hello? The priest stops a few meters from me, and from here I notice that their mask doesn't cover their mouth, which is set into a thin, disapproving line. You're right, it's quite the scene outside. I pause. I was hoping I could lay low here for a while. I'm not one for brawls. My star? My star. The church will always be a place of safety for those who need it. Please stay as long as you like. I was taught that all lunar priests call their believers their stores. But it still makes me smile. It's a cute nickname if it was meant to be in that way, but it's a very cute cult. Oh, thank you, Father. A twitch of their lips. Serious, you need not call me by those stuffy titles. Oh, okay. Wait. This hairstyle looks familiar. Why? Why am I like this? Don't you think the hair kind of looks familiar? Especially with like this weird hit of blue here. I feel like I've seen it before. It's like deja vu. Yeah, it's always like that for me. I'm like, wait, I've seen this before. This is what being this is this is crazy. I feel crazy too. Um when I make so many references to like we should I'm gonna write down none outfit as a possible thing. None? Alright. A man's name. I had a feeling. I doubt it's his real name, as is the case with most people in the marketplace. But even a fake name speaks volumes about someone's personality. Ooh! Oh my god! Holy shit. The art is so beautiful. I'm just like, oh my god. I should. I know, right? I'm just staring. So disrespectfully. Would you like to light a candle while you're here? Huh. Sure, why not? I follow him towards the back of the church, past the initial altar, and stop in front of the statue. It towers over us, surrounded by row and after row of marine blue candles, and the sight takes my breath away. A sea of light. I don't believe I've seen you around these parts before. Small talk. I light the match and watch the flame flicker softly as I bring it to the wick. The only rational thing is to answer with vague pleasantries to make sure I don't divulge important information. I'm far from being well traveled. Think I might see the appeal now, though. Is that so? This night. I'm already losing like my ability to talk. So this is going great. Despite not being able to see his eyes through his mask, I feel them on me. Sirius makes no effort to follow up on his last comment. The two of us fall into silence. You're a bit of an unusual priest, aren't you? Ooh! He's like so... I have a lot of words that I probably shouldn't say on stream. Anyway. His lips twitch again, forming into a polite smile. Would you care to elaborate? I like to keep my secrets. We're standing closer now, shoulders only slightly apart as we watch the new flame sway in unison with the rest. There's such a strange comfort to it all. I could linger here for hours, soaking up the atmosphere. It reminds me of my childhood. I'm curious about what it's like, being a priest, I mean. Demanding answers from me while not offering up your own? Behind my mask, I suppress a smile at his light prodding. Can't argue with that. Well, I understand your caution. The marketplace is by no means a safe environment. Words. But if it's of any comfort, my star, I am bound to the lunar scriptures. It's my job to ensure the visitors here feel safe and cared for. The words roll off his tongue with a practiced ease. Oh, like if I was super immersed, I would be like, nah, but I've immersed into the wrong side of it, so I know that's what you call everyone, but being called a star does make one feel a little special. My answer makes a pause for a bit. You are special. Everyone is in their own way. If everyone is special, then that kind of defeats the purpose of the sentiment, doesn't it? I'm mouthing off for the sake of it at this point, funneling the day's frustrations into banter. But Sirius doesn't mind. I feel his eyes on me again, with increased intensity. Would you rather I say you're a bit more special than everybody else? No comment. His voice is laced with unexpected warmth, teasing me like an old friend would. Why, yes, that sounds a lot better. I think I ought to be heading back soon. Our ants won't run themselves. Good luck with that, my star. What can I call you next time we meet? Next time, huh? Alec. That's my name. Sirius repeats it, testing the pronunciation. Then a smile spreads across his lips. It suits you. I hope so. I've had it for almost 10 years, I think. That's crazy. Thanks, picked it myself. Quite the mouthy one, aren't you? Spite of my endless charm. I just keep talking until someone tells me to stop. That it is. We bid each other a polite farewell, and before I know it, I'm alone in the streets again. I trudge through the market stalls, sweeping over any available content as I have every single day since coming down here. We never asked about the ichor. Girl, come on now, don't get distracted by the priest. Murky colored crystals, vials filled with shimmering liquids, rare animal leathers, but nothing even remotely resembling the ichor that catches my eye. The serenity that filled me at the church is instantly quashed. Instead, all I feel is dread. I've already been over this. Would Sirius know anything? You should have asked while you were still there. It's worth asking. And it's the perfect excuse to head back to the church tomorrow. Until then, I keep walking. Because that's all I can do to keep myself busy. At night, I toss and turn. Not even the inn's freshly clean sheets do anything to soothe my restlessness. There's gotta be something in that fucking, that church. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Alright. Before I know it, it's the next day, and I barely gotten a wink of sleep. Bruna stops by for the usual breakfast chatter, but my mind is elsewhere, All I want is answers. Eventually, I'm back at the doors of the lunar church. Something about them beckons me, a deep magnetism that draws me straight through the entrance without a second thought. There's different incense wafting around today. It tickles my nose with notes of mahogany and velvet. Oh! Scandalous! Scandal! Father, no! I expect to see Sirius in the same spot as yesterday, but find him further in this time, with an unmasked woman kneeling before him. It takes me a moment to understand what's happening. The priest doesn't say a word. His stature is imposing and almost regal, practically towering over the other person. Completely different from yesterday. I can't really make out what he's saying, but she doesn't move. And eventually his hand finds its way to the top of her head. Perhaps he's blessing her? I wonder why the atmosphere is so heavy in here. And intimate, like I'm intruding. I decide to hang back. It's not my place to interrupt whatever ritual may be going on. My eyes rove over the decor instead, specifically the paintings, and the detailed scenes they depict. Massive oils on canvas, crackling with age at the edges. Hey! Hey, man! The larger one shows the two gods at opposite ends, dancing around the earth in harmony. Their arms reach out for one another as their endless rotations continue on until the collapse of the universe itself, unable to ever reunite. It's a little sad. Alec? I didn't notice him approach. Sirius's tone is warm and comforting, and the smile right under his mask peeks out as usual. It's as though the ceremony from earlier never even happened. Hey, I'm back. Didn't want to disturb you back there. Back there? Ooh. He tilts his head, lips stretching into a mysterious smile. Did I make you curious, by any chance? About the ceremony? Did I say that right? I feel like I'm not saying words correctly anymore. Send help. Jesus Christ. Yes. I mean, I was curious, but I don't like prying. Impressions so far. Do you think Sirius is more of a like, hehe, I like it when, where was I going with this? I lost the thought immediately as soon as I said hehe. Do you think he's more of like an obedience guy or like it'll be funny? It'll be fun for me if you don't obey? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, but you could send it to me on Discord. I guess. Alright, then I'll read it out loud. /J. I'll make a summary. Have you seen like the YouTube summaries? Like the AI ones that they have going on? Boing, 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 boing. Oh. I mean, what? Nothing happened. Oh, wait, no, ignore that. Bam, ba, 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 bam, bam. Bum, 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 ba, 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 ba. Yeah. You know what? I agree with all this, Elle. I think maybe initially he's probably like testing and like the disobeying part comes in with deeper trust or something along those lines. But yes, I get it. Alright, alright. You know what? I'll say yay. You both seem so serious. Don't think I've ever seen anything like it. There's a police rumble coming. What? What the hell? She was readying herself for something important in her life and needed some reassurance. And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. The priest purrs. It's a crazy alliteration. So she turned to the lunar god itself and demanded she be fully cleansed. Why? Simply so she may begin that chapter with a clear conscience. More than that, I cannot say. Privacy and such. That's fine. Thanks for explaining. Either way, I'm sure you didn't come here just to spy on me and the paintings. His comment makes me smile. Maybe I did. I totally did. I would do it all the time. If I had full control of the scenario, we'd just be sitting here and I just watch him. A church is very homey to me. If I could see his eyebrows, the tone of his voice suggests they'd be raised right now. I love the descriptions though, because they have to like work around like the masks. Like they don't have the usual advantage of like normal visual novels where you can see expressions from the character sprites. It's epic. I love it. Yeah. Yo, the pews are crazy though. They're so fucking uncomfortable. Even like the ones with cushions. I know most church don't have cushions though. Yes. I was gonna start this stream talking about like how there is an iteration out there where my VTuber model has had a mask. Just like a full on bear mask. But I scraped it because I didn't know how to draw a bear. Maybe later. I'll write that down alongside the nun idea. Bear mask? I like this game. It's so... I guess you're right though. I'm in need of advice. A pause. My star. Nothing pleases me more than knowing you feel comfortable enough to come here for help. Sirius comes closer, and for the first time I take notice of his height compared to mine. Just now? At least a full head? From what he looks like, I'm probably at boob height, okay? It'd be like worse YouTube live 2D. Pull up OBS. Fine. Probably be like right here. Like right here. Probably down here though, like I'm not very tall. Just like arm resting height. Shut the fuck up. Shush. Anyway. Yay! Alright, let's bring him back. What can I do for you? I hesitate, unsure if you really should be trusted or not. I'm looking for something. Lunar Ichor, to be specific. Oh no, he's upset. No, he doesn't like the Lunar Ichor or whatever. Do you think, in some twisted way, he thinks of himself as like the second coming of the lunar god? Lunar Ichorism. Ad break in 5 minutes, by the way. Something in his demeanor shifts when he hears this. You're sure? Quite sure. That's quite a task. What do you need such a precious resource for? I find that I really don't appreciate him sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Oh. Oh, I see. Oh! How did you get that? Fractum anima. I thought that illness had very well vanished from this world. His words startled me as I instantly stare up at his face, hoping to catch a glimpse of his eyes through the hulless mask. The only better way to ensure he's telling the truth. If he actually knows what he's talking about. But I see nothing. Of course. Only the intricate embossing in the metal surface. Hey, yo! Holy shit. This is beautiful. This is so cool. I love the visual design. He knows the name of my illness. Wasn't expecting that. How do you... I've encountered it before, though it remains exceedingly rare. As is the cure, of course. I assumed you've asked around and seen for yourself. The weight of the situation returns to me, as my chest feels like it's being crushed. I know. I feel him placing his hand on my head to give it a pat. A compassionate gesture. Then that's it. Oh! Oh! That same hand trails down to cup my cheek over the mask's surface. The sudden intimacy of the gesture makes me jolt. My star. Oh! Awooga? Wait, yo, he's got the little teeths, bro. I know, right? This is so scandalous for a priest. Can I zoom in? I don't know how to zoom in. Well, well, I know how to do this though. Where is it? Oh, shit. Look, he's got teeth. Alright, let's put that back. Teethies. What if I told you there might be another way? I feel my hand twitch, then curl into a fist. Impossible. I wouldn't be so sure. The lunar god is a benevolent, wondrous being. Goosebumps erupt all over my skin, and my heart leaps into my throat. Throat? My neck area. The inside. It's too good to be true. It has to be. My goosebumps also popped earlier, but it's because it's cold. There's no conceivable way he could have the answers right here on a silver platter. Everything about this situation is making the alarm bells in my head go off. Instead of cutting Circe off, I wait for him to elaborate. I can't drop my voice! Stop this! The entire time I'm just like, how do I voice this? How do I give them a different voice distinct from one another? And they're like, I have a very deep and luscious masculine voice, and it drops, and I'm like, you're doing the one thing I can't do. I don't know how to do that aside from I wake up in the morning. Or like I lose all of my voice. Cirrus's other hand captures my other cheek, so my head is cradled in his embrace as his voice drops an octave. I don't have a voice changer, so we're just gonna keep talking normally. You're shivering. Really? Holy shit, I wanna hear that. That'd be poggers, dude. That'd be poggers, dude. Me when my friends do something. That's poggers. Oh no! Join. Hey! Welcome to the no ad version. This is the version without ads. Oh my god, look at you, you're vibing. Although you probably can't see that. I just made yeah. OBS. Wait, let me flip you. Ah. Ah. What? Hello, Rainer. Transform. Flip. You know what would be epic? You know how like there's the new options for the Fugi now with the... Okay, here's me drinking the last bit of the water that I grabbed before stream. Glug glug. I am not shrimped. I was never shrimped. I have never become a shrimp. Not a shrimp. Not a shrimp. What? Why did you deafen? You're gonna have to choose between this stream or this call. Hello, Rainer. Hi, Rainer. Bear shrimp. That sounds awful and furry. Yeah. Fugi. There's a new options now for deafened and muted. And I'm like, what do I do for my ones? No! Don't do that. You're shivering. Yes, I am. It's cold. What's the degrees right now? Let me check. It's 4 degrees. Oh no. It's 3 degrees. Oh shit. Not actually shivering. I have a pretty good hoodie on. I'm just releasing like so many sounds that isn't speaking. You're shivering. Yeah. Time around us seems to come to a standstill. I don't have the cure here. Not yet. But I want to help you. I see how brightly you shine, and how much you want to overcome this. I could never turn a blind eye to that kind of hunger for life. Will you let me help you? Hey! Hey, guys. I'm gonna save anyway. Yo, this is epic. I like this guy. I like him a lot. I like him a lot more than when he appeared and when I first saw him. I'm not gonna lie. I clicked on this game because I saw him on the banner. Just like dropping like I don't I don't know when I saved this game into my PC, but I think it's before I had decided fully on my hair. So like this is an amazing coincidence. Which yes should we pick? Probably not this one. I will say yes though. Mostly because I have no choice. Boom, 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 boom. You know what it reminds me? I need to get more emotes. Merlin chooses the top one. So true, Merlin. Yes. Am I dreaming? Please, I'll take any help I can get. I'm still in disbelief. My mind is overcome with a sudden wave of confusion. I need to know the details, but he's been so kind to me. I have a hard time doubting the validity of his claims. Sirius readjusts his gloves with a practiced movement. Gloved man. Oh my god. I need a bit of time. Getting a hold of this substance is no easy feat. The disappointment in his tone is obvious, and I believe him. Even for someone with more influence, there's bound to be obstacles in the way. How will you get a hold of it, then? Have you heard of the lunar god's healing prowess, my star? He turns to face the giant statue surrounded by the candles, and motions for me to follow. I have. And how much do you know about it? As we both come to a halt, heads tilted up to get a full view of the statue and its surroundings, I respond with silence. Long ago, it was said that priests were able to receive a sample of the blood that flows in these higher beings' veins to save their people. Oh my god, I ran out of breath just saying that one sentence. That is the Ichor we know of today. Pure, concentrated life force infused with their powers. In this case, healing powers. But there is no reliable way to get a hold of it these days. I held my breath. That being said, this blood had once been taken and thoroughly analyzed by a man who then went into hiding. Rumor goes that he left all his notes behind after passing away. Suddenly, his explanation starts to make sense. You're saying you could find these notes and replicate the composition of the real lunar ichor? Precisely. My mind goes into overdrive. Drive? Oh my god, Filipino accent. How could this be the first time I've heard of it? I have to rein myself in before I get carried away. Sounds pretty illegal to me. Where do you know all this from? Sirius smiles wide. He's been smiling wide this entire time. Nexus? Nexus mods? Ain't no way. Oh my god, guys, the answer is in the mods. This man went by the name of Nexus, and he was a fellow priest from this very church. I hope you know just how difficult you're making it for me to believe you. It's just not possible. Please rein in your expectations. As he uses my name, the timbre of his voice turns serious once more. I did not know him well. Few people did. He was a reserved person with not much to his name. Finding his residence or where he may have hidden his secrets is bound to be a difficult task. And I'll need all the help I can get. And even once we find these notes, there is no guarantee we'll be able to replicate it with the information we have, nor that someone will do it. The knot returns to my throat, but I have more to cling on to than when I first arrived. Well, better to try than do nothing at all. Indeed. Something grabs a hold of me. Determination. Unlike any I've ever felt before. Hope soothing my heart. Even if just for a little bit. I can't quite let my guard down fully. But this is the first step. Eventually we fall into silence as we stare back up at the statue. Just checking, but it's not as easy as just saying pretty please and then having the ichor appear before us. He chuckles. Ha ha ha. Unlikely, but if you'd like to offer a prayer, that will always be encouraged. I contemplate the idea. You know what? I'm a praying bitch, okay? I used to pray once upon a time. Now I just do it for fun. I do it with without the intention of having it be heard or fulfilled in any way. I just do it like, hey God. Like we're besties. It can't hurt. But I'm not sure how to. I don't know any lunar prayers. Allow me to guide you, my star. I nod. A shadowy mask turns my way. Lips set into a neutral line. On your knees. Oh! Already? We met yesterday, dude. Like... The usual warmth of his voice is completely stripped from his command. And I very quickly realized that this must be the mindset he was in earlier when he helped cleanse the other woman. For now, I obey. Shoulders straight, hands together. Feels a bit early into this relationship. We really just met yesterday, and this is like our second conversation ever. The words are efficient and utterly no nonsense. It's easy to tell he's done this a million times. Oh, really? Chin up, Alec. Do not hide your face from the lunar god. Expose your emotions. I feel... Oh, whoa. Whoa. Whoa, mama, no. We are in church. Is the italics a hint, you think? Um. I'll say vulnerable. You know what? Yeah. Very interesting choice of words. Very naked and very powerless in front of this higher being. It's almost a tad embarrassing. I don't recall ever feeling like this while praying. But maybe it's because of the position, or because I thought he'd prefer to be in front. The only thing keeping me somewhat comfortable is my mask. You're almost there. Simply repeat after me, my star. I don't know if he puts his hands together as well. I don't dare look back, but he begins a short prayer, speaking solemnly and clearly. I repeat the words after him. This is just like church, holy shit. Again and again. We fall into a trance, and with that, I hope that my pleas reach the moon. Finally, it's over. I thought it was a short prayer. How long was it? I take a moment to regain awareness of my surroundings and raise my head. You did very good. I'm certain your prayers will be heard. He smiles patiently as I rise up from my kneeling position and stretch out. No worries. I hope so. Try to believe in yourself a little more. No such pleas could fall on deaf ears. I've got my doubts about that. No, my little guy. They're gone. No! Lost my little guy. All alone in this cold, hard world. Just still appreciate your guidance. I'm about to ask if this is how the prayers usually go when the echo of the door squeaking resonates through the church. New visitors begin filtering in and the spell is broken. A manor clock tells me it's time to head back. Thank you for today. I'll come back tomorrow so we can start searching. By all means do. I'll do my utmost to find any leads and let you know if there's anything to work with. We share a quiet smile. Get home safe, Alec. I leave the church and step outside, right back into the darkness. On my way back to the Leaping Bear, I stop at a food stall for some hearty potato soup and allow myself to take a bit of time to relax. I don't think I'll ever truly get used to not seeing the sun, but I'm starting to warm up to the underground as a whole. Halfway through another sip, I think back on what happened at the church. It was kind of nice. Okay, I'm gonna save though. Save. It was kind of nice. Cyrus may have been pushy, but I can't deny it. That session felt wonderful. Session? In the strangest of ways. Obeying felt natural in that moment. Where's my vine boom? I'm glad that I'm sitting in a Discord call. Obeying? Ain't no way. And just maybe I would want it to happen again. I do, but like, why are we talking about it? Either way, I need to come to terms with what happened. I have to work hard while I'm here. After loitering around for just a bit longer, I pay for my soup and begin my long detour back. Passing through the marketplace so many times means I've started becoming a familiar face. And that in turn, I recognize some of the owners. Still looking? Unfortunately, yes. I'll keep my eyes peeled for ya. The owner of the bookstall nods in my direction, and I know without a doubt he will. Like many other settings up shop here, he can be a treasure trove of rumors and information. Say, could I ask you something? Depends on what it is. Have you ever heard of a priest going by the name of Nexus? The shopkeeper falls silent in thought and drums his fingers on the surface of the wooden display table. Can't say I have. Why? Heard he passed. I keep my intentions vague, and if he notices, he doesn't press it. Not exactly an uncommon occurrence around these parts. Thanks anyway. Today's search is unsuccessful yet again, but I don't let it bother me. After all, I have Sirius's lead. Just as I'm about to turn back towards the inn, I narrowly dodge bumping square into someone's chest. Ooh! Ooh! Wait, this is one of the guys. The boys. Oh my god. Oh, he's the color red. He's very opposite of whatever Sirius's color palette is. I bow my head in apology, but the stranger fumbles back, distraught. Oh no. Oh dear. I hope I didn't startle you. I'll get here. Are you okay? Please don't worry about me. I should be apologizing instead. I'm not sure how to feel about the sudden outburst. When I take in their appearance, I instantly know it's one of the noble sons from the surface. His skin sports a rich sun-kissed gold that almost makes me envious. The high quality of the suit's fabric and the elaborate pieces of jewelry don't lie, either. They're selected with obvious care and attention to the outfit as a whole. Even the mask is perfectly coordinated with the rest of his suit. That's not necessary. I'm fine. Look. I hold up my hands to show no harm was done. Oh, sure I'm glad. I hope we'll meet again, if you don't mind me saying. You are a very kind person. The person takes my hand and brings their... I hope this is just an elbow thing. And brings their lips to it. An old-fashioned custom at this point. I'm surprised to see anybody still doing such a thing. Save. Thank the person. There really is no need for this, but thank you. What? Hello? What? Oh my god. Thank you for the... What is this? The bits? Cheers? What are they called nowadays? I think they're still called bits, right? Thank you. Erzel. Oh my god. Erzel? Erzel. It's a lot of consonants and not a lot of vowels. Erzel. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the bits. Thank you for everything. Alright. I hope if you've been here for a little bit. Oh, thank you. You really didn't have to. I'm just chilling. My pleasure. At first glance, he's an easily frightened sort. I'm not sure how much of that is genuine. Please take care, and allow me to make this up to you someday. That is one way to do it, I suppose. Oh. I hope, have a good... Wait, I see that you are streaming. Oh, hey. Oh, hey, ear chat. I'm very good. I'm having fun. I've wanted to play this demo, kind of like half finished game for a little bit. I put a poll up on Twitter and every choice tied. So so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just choose something not on this choice list. So yee. I'm mostly, yeah. It's been fun. I'm just reading. I'm just reading mostly. Oh yes, I enjoy visual novels a lot. Although I probably should go get some water soon. Um, words. Yes, I'm struggling to speak though, as you can see. It is, struggle out here. It's cold. I've drank the last bit of my water, but I don't want to get up. So basically, I'm bawling. Get water later. No. No. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Welcome back, though. My God. It is not. It's pay to use. By, oh my God, Hexos. It's in my panels. I think. Wait, let me check. God dang. Get water. Why am I getting bullied by my own mods? What the hell is this? Yes, it's the one with a lot of numbers. I like using their models. They're all very cute. They got released another pay to use recently that looks a lot like my basic design, but glad for the I'm glad for the coincidences. Where is it? Open the fuck up. Knock knock. Content warning? Yes, I played like a week or so when it came out. With these guys in the chat. Like jump scare. I have my own model, but still working on it. It's cool though. I like it. Ah! It's rabbit themed though. Although I'm a bear. Where is it? Where do you change outfit? What number? Oh, 3. Okay. Bump. Alright. Shall we get back to the visual novel? Everyone? Yes? No? Maybe later? What's the command for a shout out? I'm typing. Yippee! There you go. Boop. Dun 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 Na 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 na. Bum 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 bum. Alright. The person quickly excuses themselves. Ah, what? Huh? And I'm left baffled. The underground truly is a strange place. And there's something going on in my chat. It's a testament to how many different people congregate down here. But you never really know who you're talking to, after all. Why'd you say that to yourself, though, girlie? I shake the thoughts from my head and finally find my way back to my room. What? Oh my god. It landed to Cred. Cred, are you in chat? Ain't no way. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum. Thank you for the gifted job, Erzel. You really don't have to. It's okay. Congratulations, crud toaster, whatever you're. I still don't have the full concept of what your name is. Congratulations to crud toaster, everyone! Yay! Maybe. I mean, I'm down. Ooh. Mood. Mine's next month. Mine's next month. I have my notifs on, so I'll try and drop by. Maybe. Yippee! Alright. Thank you for stopping by, Erzel. Yeah, I'll definitely try to drop by then. It's 24 hours, oh my god. Hee. I can't do 24-hour birthday streams. I get bullied. Not by Chad, but my family. Just make it a long. I couldn't even do a long stream. Holy shit! What the fuck? That's long. Oh, yeah, you know what? Same. What you just said. I agree. And man, smaller communities means more chance to have closer conversations, and streaming should be for fun, mostly. It should be fun at the very least, especially if you're doing it for 120 hours. Oh my god. I just realized I don't have a BGM on, and the visual novel doesn't have any either. So we're just like sitting here in silence, like, and I'm just waiting for someone to talk in the chat. Let's put this on for now. Oh God, no, no way. That's like a week. That's too long. It's 5 days. That's too many days. Dun 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 dun. Thank you. I also like it a lot. Bum 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 bum. Ba-da-bum. Mhm. And it's made by a very cool artist, and I wish I could say that it's a costume, but it's not. So I have a link to the model in the chat if you want to check them out. Bum 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 bum. Alright, let's look at the full model then. There's nothing on the screen right now anyway. Hey! wait a goddamn minute. Hold on. Transform, reset, transform. Bee! Boing, 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 boing. Iris model. Hell yeah. Legs jump scare. I know, right? It's such long legs. The legs are like, woo! God damn. Yeah. They do be doing that. What? Boobas. Ain't no way. Boop, 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 boop. I can do this. And I can do this. And I also can do this. But I don't have a controller. I can do this though. And this. And it. Wait. And then this. And it. Wait. It turned off. Then it's supposed to track my mouse. But apparently it's not working. Boink, boink. Wait. Is it working? Hello? Boink, boink, boink. No. Hey. Okay, it's broken. Ain't no way. Expression toggles? There's a lot, so I don't remember what numbers they are. This is left mouse button. Why is it working? Hello? Okay. Oh, yes. Wait, what is it? I don't use... Oh, shit. I got dragged away. I don't tend to use them because, like, pretty happy with the normal ones it has just from, like, tracking. Oh, left shift. Okay. Left shift. And what was it? What's the other option? Control. Okay. Alright, let's do this. Oh, should be the normal setting. I look like this all the time. Oh, there's something under here. I don't remember what it was. And then this is the second round. Oh. What's this one? I guess it's something I can't see. Yeah, that's it, I think. And then this is the EP one. It's basically when the model loses tracking. Yippee! Hehe. What's this one? Hold on. Wait. No, not that one. Boing. Boing. Ow! Alright. And oh, there was one that I couldn't see earlier. I forgot about all these toggles. I completely forget about toggles sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Oops. That's not even. Oh well. And oh, what did I click on? Hello? Oh, let's not look at this. Look away, look away, look away, look away. Wah. Ha ha ha. Don't worry about that. It's not even spoilers. That's super old. It's more like trash. I had the Rumpy launcher open. I've shown it before, I think. No, just to friends. Alright, should we get back to the game? Yeah? No? Maybe later? Yeah, it's like gross milk. Or an egg. Yeah, it's called an egg, I think. A rotten egg. Oh wait, there's also this. Will it load? Hello. Hey. Hey. you just you just like it because it's small. You also have this, don't you? Don't look too closely. I look like a rat. Can you wink? Ah. Ah. So it's really hard. I can wink after I blink. Fucking Jesus Christ. No! Stop it. Stop. I'm gonna time you out. Stop. Stop it. I'm gonna... Stop it. Bop it. Twist it. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. I think that's it. Well, those are all the models I have from Hexo specifically. Bop it. Twist it. Pull it. There's also this one. Da, 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 da. Hey. Throw it? Yeah, definitely throw it. Throw up. Okay. Ameji. Oh shit! Don't worry about that. Ameji sama. Yeah, let's get back into this. Oh fuck! Where is it? Alright, let's get back into this. We have been thoroughly distracted. Thank you for stopping by. Angel, and also thank you for the bits. Again, like 2 times. You didn't really have to do that. Thank you. Have a good rest of your stream. Goodbye, Erza's chat. No! Mod, time him out. Time his ass out. Slash J, don't do it. Mods, no. No head pets. No, the messages. For 1 second. An epic amount of time. Right. Whee! Right. Let's pog. Let's get back into it, chat. Right. I shake the thoughts from my head and finally find my way back to my room. Mods, by the way, I am sitting in VC if you want to join. Excuse me. I don't know. Hey. Oh my goodness. Come back. What the heck? Stay. 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 Please. That was odd. That was strange. Yeah, let's get back to normal. Mod number 1, you can come here too. Like, I shake the thoughts from my head and finally find my way back to my room, where my bed welcomes me after a strange day out. It's funny how familiar this in-room has become, too. Oh yeah, we met one of the other while you were away. I don't know if you still had the stream open or not. So we met one of the other love interests. Well, we bumped into him. I don't think he has much relevance in this route, but we'll see. Even seeing Rufus's face and his bloodied weapon every day has become something of a comfort. He's like bright and rich. I'm sure that eventually the church will feel the same. He's like the complete opposite color scheme of Cirrus. That same church is empty. The next day I step inside. There's nothing but the echoes of my own calls for Cirrus, and the flicker of the candles around the statue. For a while I simply wait in front of the altar. 5 minutes turn into 10, which turn into 20. At this point I'm pacing around the candles, wondering where he is. Didn't he say he might have some information today? Curiosity and boredom take me to the back of the church, where I've seen ornate doorways lead to who knows where. Maybe they're his chambers? That's when I hear it. The muffled shouts. The left door is slightly ajar. Ooh, oh no, what's going on? And as I peek past it, as discreetly as I can muster, I finally catch a glimpse of Cirrus. And he's not alone. Oh! Oh! Oh yeah, Al, I didn't tell you, but there's time choices in this. We go crazy. There's a strange tension in the air, one far more prominent than yesterday, and it dawns upon me as I lean further against the wall that he's genuinely angry. The usually smooth, silken tone of his voice is raised towards the person in front of him. I don't know who it is, but they have their hands raised defensively, and their own words come out with much difficulty. Do better, I promise, please, just give me time. That is not good enough. The venomous hiss makes me jump. I never expected to hear this kind of anger coming from a priest of all people. On holy ground, no less. Totally haven't met many priests. I can't speed up our process, not anymore. They'll be on to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Show me that you're sorry. A shiver runs down my spine. What is happening right now? Cirrus expectantly hands the person in front of him something that gleams in the candle light, pale and deathly. It's a blade. My body immediately tenses at the sight, and my heartbeat skyrockets. I have to do something. I'm gonna say it real quick. Is it even safe to interfere? Shit, what do I do? Walk away? I mean, I guess. What the fuck? Don't worry, it's foreplay. Wait, no, let's try that again. I was like, what the hell is happening? Wait, let me narrow something up. Wait, I have guides up, so I'm just checking something. Wait. I want a good ending. I'm only checking it because I want a good ending. Give me a second. I think I'm supposed to let it time out. I don't know if I read it correctly though. Look at listen to this music though. It's groovy as hell. let's try this. And then I don't actually know if I'm supposed to let a timeout. I'm gonna talk to him and see what happens. If not, then I'm too paralyzed by this. Wait, what was it? I can't move. I'm too paralyzed by the sight in front of me. How could this be happening? The person now wielding the knife holds it in their hands as they would a precious jewel, then looks up at Cirrus. Their voice trembles. Right here? No, you're right. In front of the statue would be a more fitting setting for this. We gotta go! We gotta go! Fuck! Shall we? Yes, by all means. In my panic, I tried to shuffle back noiselessly, but one of my steps nearly fumbles, allowing the clacking sound. I got heels on. Let's go. Let's go, fashion. To echo freely between the walls. Who's there? No one. No one's here. No one. Is it too late to run? Would they find... Just as I'm about to make a run from it. For it, a hand clutches onto the fabric of my robe. Hard. Never seen the person before. No matter how much I struggle, there's no time. In just a few seconds, I'm face to face with Cirrus himself. If I didn't know better, I'd say he's stunned to see me. He nods once in the other person's direction, but proceeds to drag me through the doorway and unceremoniously toss me into the room. Alec. Cirrus's voice turns back to the warm, comforting one I've always heard. But right now, I don't know if I trust it. You shouldn't be here, my star. I'm simply taking care of some sensitive matters. You have to understand. Sensitive matters? Really? You gave him a knife. One that he was going to use on himself. I love this vibe. But I do want a good ending at some point. I don't think this will give me a good ending from what I read on the guide, but you know. Return. On himself? He pauses. I think you have the wrong idea. What I gave him was not a weapon, but a ritual dagger. One used in the elaborate dances and rituals of repentance. What? I don't trust this man. And I don't trust his words. I stare at Cirrus, then back at the trembling person. When I ask them if it's true, they nod. I think I should leave. Oh, I think you're straying right where you are. Why? When I gaze back up at the priest, he's smiling in a way that gives me chills. I know, right? This religion is kind of weird. I think I'm in a cult, guys. I guess in a way I'm playing Cult of the Lamb. Leave for now. We'll continue this later. Oh, add in 3 minutes. He dismisses the shivering person without so much as a glance in their direction. They immediately obey and scuttle off. Then the door shuts behind us. Also, I checked Twitter in between starting stream and Airzal coming in. Someone voted for Stardew Valley, so now everything's tied again. I hate all of you. And what? Why is he locking it? Yo! Wait. He tucks the key away in the pocket. And with that, there's no way out. I'm scared. Girl. Girl. I don't know if this is a good ending or just, I don't know. When I refuse to look up at him, his fingers grasp my chin with surprising strength and force me to meet his masked gaze. Do you make it a habit of snooping around and eavesdropping like this? No, I was just looking for you. Usually I don't have to. But then I heard shouting. You poor thing. His smile twists cruelly. No! I did keep you waiting for quite a while. Did you miss me? Earlier, yeah. Now, not so much. I'm not sure what's making my heart race faster right now, the adrenaline or the fact that he's so close. No matter. I'm going to teach you some manners. Listening in on important conversations is... Al, remember what you sent me in DMs? That. Very, very naughty. Okay, whatever, dude. He steps even closer, completely suffocating me with his presence. Have you ever been... Yeah. Yeah. What? Punishment? Yes, I'll think of something adequate for a little eavesdropper like you. Of course, since it is your first infraction, I'll go easy on you. But penance is of utmost importance. Oh, the ad got them. The ad got the people. I think I really... Yeah. Hold on. He is a priest. Unfortunately. Well, that's how the world works. And I think you'd best keep that soul of yours unblemished. I feel something inside me shiver at the thought. I know what it is, girl. His words sound like the most delicious promise. One that I'm all too happy to fulfill. What the hell? Yes. Yes, I'm... Hush. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay, I'm normal. Little star. As much as I enjoy the sound of your voice, you really do talk too much. Okay, fuck. Alright, fuck, I'll shut up. Okay. He takes a step back, finally allowing me a bit of personal space. What? What is he grabbing? Then he immediately turns around and makes his way to one of the minimalist wooden shelves in the corner of this room. There's barely anything here, and save for sleeping arrangements and some storage. His shelves, on the other hand, are crammed full of jewelry, books, and small, neatly labeled vials. Vials? It's the vial he's aiming for, It's the vials he's aiming for as a long digit reaches out to brush over one of their corks. I'm wary of his every move. Yeah, I know, right? I bet. He's gonna give me a weakness, a weakness potion. And what else? It's a suspicious stew. And when Sirius is back in front of me, two of the mysterious vials in hand, I tense up. I'm aware the situation may have you a little on edge. A little on edge is a big understatement. But I need you to trust that this is for your own good. His expression falls, and in that moment I wish I could see his eyes. What would I find if I looked deep within? But the more I think about it, the less I understand. Please. For the first time I hear him beg me. It's a completely alien feeling. What do you have there? I try my hardest to keep my voice neutral as I ask. Sirius pops one of the vials open with nimble fingers, releasing a sudden waft of strong honey-like aroma. He's got honey! Alright. Yeah. What the fuck? Why is this game so weirdly tailored to me? Cloyingly sweet, almost coating the back of my throat from the smell alone. I think we're staring at each other now. The intensity of it makes my hair stand on end. Raise your mask and open your mouth. Well... I hardly understand myself right now. I may as well have asked one of the thieves to watch over my purse. But something tells me Sirius doesn't want to kill me. No, if he did, he would have done so earlier. His intentions, although I fail to understand them, are not evil. Just a little controlling. Unhealthy, maybe. So I undo the clasp of my mask, then tilt my head back, lips parted. Shut up! Perfect. So very perfect. You know, I read fics about these kind of situations all the time, and I'm like, hell yes, when I'm reading. But when I have to say it and like be in the moment myself, I'm like, no. Such an obedient little thing. He approaches and the first trickle of liquid hits my tongue. The nectar is just as thick as the initial smell, but now that it runs over my taste buds, I'm overwhelmed by the flowery, syrupy aftertaste. So it's just honey. So it's just honey, girl. Maybe like liquid honey, but I feel it sticking to my lips like a glaze. Yeah. My bad. Well, Twitter can't fucking decide, so... And when he continues pouring, it trickles down my chin. At least he looks like he's having fun. It doesn't taste bad, but... something feels off. As the liquid settles in my stomach, I feel strangely aware. Aware of every... Oh, dude, this is not good. The way my nails scrape over the skin of my palm. The way my chest expands with every new breath. The fragrance of the incense and how it clouds my mind. I promise you it's just temporary. He speaks in a soothing, measured way. What's temporary? Sirius's hand rests on my shoulder, and while I feel every single digit through the cloth, the sensation of him trailing those fingers down the length of my arm should just elicit a small shiver. I feel like this is that tag on AO3 under negotiated kinks. Instead, it feels like a sharp, cold wave that borders on actual pain, taking me entirely off guard. My breath catches in my throat, and even that feels like an overload of sensation, like claws digging around my lungs. There's affection lingering under the cruel curve of his lips, and it takes everything in my power to not make any sudden moves. Now, the sooner you complete your task, the better. You'll see. It's not too difficult. And the lunar god will be so very pleased with you. What am I gonna do? I'm scared. He's taking his time, walking in slow circles around me, observing me. You're going to do someone... I'm scared. I notice amidst my panic that the second vial in his hand contains uncooked rice. But why? He's gonna grab us and put us under the uncooked rice like a wet device. His thumb pries the cork off the top, and with a tilt of the wrist, he empties the content of the vial. Oh no. Do I have to count it? No. I can cook rice! Like, I can do that instead! No! I hate that I feel afraid to ask what it's for. Knees. No! No, even worse! He whispers, and I know it's not an order I can defy. But the moment my knees reach the yeah, I instantly understand. My legs feel like they're on fire. The individual grains push further into my knees, and with a muffled curse, I try adjusting my position. What the fuck is this? Just as I shift to look up, the sight of Sirius. Oh! It's very under-negotiated. So under-negotiated. You could call it a raw chicken, bruh. It makes me release a strangled sound I didn't know I was capable of making. No, no. Easy there. Easy. You're going to do it yourself, so it won't be so bad. No! It's not Easter anymore. What the fuck? After all, you're the one who must repent. I take a deep, careful breath. What if I refuse? Sirius chuckles, but it's devoid of warmth. And I suppose I have to take matters into my own hands, Can't have my little star ruining their chances. Honestly, I'm down to ruin my chances. Fuck it, we ball. Okay. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I was checking the guide again. Guys. The homies. What to choose? Girl, I was not ready for this. Send help. Send God. I'm glad I changed out of the nun outfit. Holy shit. This would be so much weirder. Hello? Hello, chatters? What the? I didn't see it. Whatever you sent. I missed it. Why? Good luck, stream. What the hell? I don't want to do it. You should have just made me cook rice. I would have done it. I don't listen to robots. Fuck you, Crayon. Okay, fine. What if I... I'm glad that it's in the middle of the night. What if... What if I want you to do it? My own voice surprises me, and I feel my face heat up under the mask. Stop laughing! Oh no, I don't think he likes that choice. What? I feel like I'm intruding. His voice thickens. I didn't either! You know? Okay. Oversharing time. I didn't think. For the longest time, I was like, masochism seems kind of difficult. I don't know if I'd ever be into it. But recently, there's some things where I'm like, maybe. I didn't take you for a masochist. Me neither, girl. Like, and we're here now. You never asked. I'll be sure to reward that honesty plenty. Oh! Do not clip it! Handles the vlogger with an experienced grip. And it doesn't take a genius to see he's done this plenty before. All I can do is stare at the tail swaying around. What the? Ow, no! And prepare myself for the impact. The Genshin impact. We'll start with 10. No! I close my eyes. But no amount of deep breaths or mental preparation ready me for the impact between my shoulder blades. Honestly, it looks like he's gonna go straight for the face. My vision goes white as mind-shattering pain explodes all over my back. It's unlike anything I've felt before, and it takes everything in me not to scream. The next hit comes sooner than expected, just a few centimeters lower. And are enough to revive the previous surge of pain. Oh, a lot of things are gonna fly! The rise continues to dig further into my knees. You should have just let me cook it, like king. This time I scream. Perfect. Suffering for your wrongs and completely letting go. What a wonderful sight. What a... What is it? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Another 2 hits of the flogger make me choke back sobs. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, I know, right? He didn't have to spill it on the floor, like... He murmurs a few words in a language I don't understand under his breath, giving me a moment to curl up and brace myself for the next hit. But Sirius isn't having it. Sit up, Alec. When I refuse to budge, still trembling with aftershocks of pain, his fingers hook into the collar of my cloak and tug. They pull up further and further, and before long I'm gasping for air and clawing at his hands. Sirius, I said, sit up. My struggling only serves to please him further. Of course it does. At this point, I'm desperate for all of it to stop. I nod and fight through the sensation until it releases my cloak. After which I fall back to my previous position on my knees. Ow! Owie! No! Don't drop people by their knees! Everything aches deeply. There's 6 more to go. I can make it through. Just a bit longer. I know, right? The next hit comes far too soon. I'm screaming again, the force of it resonating in my vocal cords. Each individual tail's flick leaves trails of fire searing across my back. I didn't think this is what we were signing up for when it said that it was a dark story. I thought it was gonna be like dark as in horror, not dark as in sadomasochism with a priest. As the flogger traces a figure 8 across my skin, my throat tightens up. I guess. Please, God. I feel warm tears dripping down my face. He takes a deep, satisfied breath. That's it. That's what. Beg for forgiveness? Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. By the time I receive the final hit, my vision goes blurry, and I realize my senses are dulling again. A pleasant numbness washes over me. Really is dark, Edo. Darkness quickly engulfs my senses. I'm not conscious long enough to realize that my body has already collapsed to the floor. Crazy one. By the time I come to, I'm surrounded by the smell of cotton and feel something warm and soft on my arm. It's just the right lukewarm temperature. Something like a damp cloth gently dabbing away the sweat and grime on my skin. I keep my eyes closed, fearing it might stop if I happen to open my eyes. The cloth is removed and I hear the sound of water dripping. When the sensation returns to my other arm, I almost exhale in relief. It feels so comforting that I'm tempted to drift off again. It's when the claw runs up the side of my neck that my breath hitches. Are you awake, little star? Darn. Damn it. God damn it. Gosh darn it. I decide not to respond. His thumb crawls up to the edge to rest over the edge of my ear. I don't know what Bible it is, but I think it might have a place on AO3. If this is the kind of values they teach. His thumb crawls up to rest over the edge of my ear, and with a deliberately slow, ghostly touch, he runs around the shell until he reaches the lobe and gives it a pinch that makes something inside me tingle. ASMR, bro. He's an ASMR artist. Let's go. Your body is betraying you. Open your eyes, Alec. Talk about playing dirty. I shift on the mattress underneath me. Do all priests make it a habit to fondle their visitors during their sleep? Not from the moment you wake, I see. I bite back a response and take a moment to reassess my situation. The effects of the syrup have long since worn off, though I'm left with little sensitivity sparking up here and there. Do you want some water? His sudden kindness surprises me. This time, and I nod in response. I hadn't realized how parched I really am. You're thirsting, girl. Wait here. Cyrus quickly makes his way out of the room, leaving me alone and disoriented. Do I still have my mask? I guess so. I need time to organize my thoughts. About that punishment, for example. After all, I now know for certain what kind of person Cyrus is. Yeah, he's a dom. A sadistic one. Max on sadism? Yeah. Was comforting? Girl. It was very enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable being watched while reading it, but it was good. I can't believe I'm saying this. Me too, girl. But it wasn't bad. No. On the contrary, I felt freed of everything in that moment. I know. I got the feeling. I still feel a warm afterglow on my back, and I'm sure that if I saw myself in the mirror, I'd see all the raised welts from each lashing. Do I have my mask on? That's what the point of the mask is. I know, right? The idea of having those kind of marks that almost label me as his is really nice. I lower my hood while he's gone, allowing myself just a little freedom to move. I'm tempted to remove my mask, but it doesn't feel like the right time. A bit early. Bit too early, okay? I can't show serious more in my face. My head is still swimming as more questions continue to pop up at one after the other. I doubt that all the followers of the lunar god engage in this kind of behavior, unless the underground is a fair bit kinkier than I anticipated. Probably that. Actually, not very surprising. But that still begs the question of why Sirius is having me undergo this. Personal satisfaction? A genuine desire to follow some obscure commandments? Questionable morals? Before I can come to any kind of conclusion, he's back with a tray. Carrying a pitcher of fresh water and what looks like chocolate? Correct. Hey yo! He's giving... let's fucking go. Alright, now I'm down. If I get chocolate after like this, poggers, dude. He hands me the little tray and I inspect the contents. This better not be spiked again. It won't be unless you give me a reason to, little star. I'm not sure if he's joking or not. Probably not. Reassuring. I take a swig of water, letting it soothe the back of my throat before I reach for the square of chocolate. It's dark, with an uneven surface. I know, right? I was like, oh my god. When I bite into it, I'm surprised by the hint of the lavender and black tea that melts in my mouth. Little grains are spread throughout the chocolate, and with each bite, they release a burst of flavor. Oh, that is a big thing. So you see when I hover over here, you see my name? That's a safe word. If I well, we're already in the aftercare, I think, but they have this. So if you get overwhelmed. But I'm streaming, so I didn't get into it. I was just like, eh. It's like Doll, you know? Where they're like, oh, it's all fiction. And everyone is role playing. With each bite, they release a bit. Volunteers sometimes come help with food. And on the good days, there's leftovers. Gotta get used to this. We sit in silence for a while, until I set the platter aside and shuffle into a better position against the headboard. How is your back feeling? It's okay. Actually, it feels kinda nice. It's not painful. I'm having a hard time gauging his reaction. Then his lips tug. Do you guys know about the song called Teach Me How to Dougie? I don't know why I arrived here, but I'm here. Teach me how to Dougie. Wait. No? No one knows about it? Alright. Okay. It's my duty to make sure you're alright. That being said, I have a question for you. Do you need an... No. Huh. Wait, I want a hug. Just in general. I want a hug. I think I deserve one. Hey, yo! Yeah! Shut up! Shut up! Hey, I get a hug. This is Poggers. I'm winning in life, guys. The weirdly dominant and sadistic priest who's helping me get a cure for my terminal illness who's giving me a hug. Cyrus complies and seats himself at the edge of the mattress. When I reach my arms out for him, he reciprocates. I find myself leaning in, resting my forehead on his shoulder while his gloved hand rubs soothing circles across my back. The scent of cotton seems to come from him, a surprisingly gentle one, mingling with the incense and candle smoke that I've now grown so accustomed to. It's a strange feeling being so physically close to someone you're not entirely sure you trust. But as we share body heat, and I feel the hard planes of his body against mine, that looks hard. I find myself lowering my guard. Who? Me? Or the description of the hug? What? Wait, what did it say? Oh, the cotton? Eventually, our heartbeats match. All throughout our embrace, I never turned to look at him. I don't know what would happen if I did. We stayed like this for a while. Didn't think you were one for hugs. People need physical touch. It's essential to our well-being. I don't think there's any shame in indulging that. Sure loves his runabout answers. After a few more seconds, I let go. Do you need anything else? I'm all good. Before I forget, my star, I've got some news regarding the notes. This makes me sit up straighter in attention. Okay, we're done with the scene, guys. We're back to the plot. Really? Indeed, I'll be sending out someone tomorrow. And if all goes well, they'll be back with positive news. Can we just go there ourselves? I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why? I think you should head home for the day. His words leave me confused. Why did his mood suddenly change? Maybe I should. His curt demeanor kinda stings, though I'm unsure if it's because he's withholding information or because he's kicking me out. While I get up and ensure I have all my belongings on me, Cyrus waits in tense silence. But I want answers. So when are you gonna be honest with me? His lips pull into a thin line, clearly not in the mood for the questions. I have not been honest with me whatsoever, Cyrus. I'm trusting with you with my life here, but you can't even be asked to give me a straight answer. Irritation starts to fuel my words. Now I'm not sure we're in the correct ending either. No, instead of that, you're just pulling me along whatever way you like, without any consideration. Just when I'm about to say more, he turns towards me completely, with all trace of annoyance vanished. You're not ready for the honest truth. His words feel like a slap across the face. What? There is so much more at play here than you realize, Alec, and you know nothing of it. Someone who's been here for so little time couldn't possibly hope to understand yet. My mind is racing. There's so many words I want to hurl back at him, but none of them come out. Just like me. Instead, I take a deep breath. You're full of shit. Go home. We'll talk once you've calmed down. He unlocks the door for me and I don't waste a second before storming out. I'm tired. A part of me wants to run and never see him again, thinking maybe it'll be easier on my own. But I'm stubborn, and I'll do everything to get what I want. Eventually, Sirius will understand that. Neutral ending. You won't give up. To be continued. Ooh! We got an ending! Ooh! Credits! Cool artists! And writers! And musicians! Let's fucking go. Thank you for releasing Obscura. What the hell? I sure am. Holy shit, guys. Oh, wait, we got CGs. Ooh. Oh. Oh. I'm like, maybe we should go through the routes. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe not on the stream. People should check out the game on their own. Alright. Okay. Alright, I think that's it for me for today. Alright, I'll just do it. Alright. Oh, where did Elle go? No! Alright. I'm trying to fix myself. Okay. And this... Where is it? Flipped again. Wait, now we're having a little conversation. I think they all do. I think they all do FTK. Alright. You guys wanna play the rest of the routes on Discord after stream? There's the bad endings and the better endings, you know. The ones, the works. What's the thoughts though? Thoughts on my choices. I did look at the I think the ending guide, and I think we were very close to the best ending possible with him. I think, but I think I fricked up something. I'm not sure what. All right, let's not let me talk to myself in complete silence. Um, any thoughts? Any prayers? Yeah, it's a pretty good ending, I think. It's just yeah, we got chocolate and a hug. And we could have gotten blankets, another warm drink, and yeah. And we were right about him. Mm. We guessed correctly. um Trying to think. Wait. Oh, if anyone comes in, I'm peeing. I'll be back.
I miss my wife, Tails. I miss her a lot. I'll be back.
Game! Gooby.
No. What the heck?
Spirit. Spirit.
What the heck? Any thoughts or prayers?
Suck.
Yes. Maybe, hopefully, in the next chapters. Alright, we're good? Stop! What is this? Alright, I'm ending stream. Fuck y'all.
Understand nothing was done for me.
Don't play music. I'm muting.
Good heaven.
Muting. Definitely.
So you have a mother?
No, wait. Alright. Time to end stream. Anyone y'all wanna raid? Hold on, I got distracted watching someone else's stream. Hold on. Alright, studio mode. Alright. Goodbye. Wait. Wait. Alright. Raid. Ba 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 ba. There's no message. We're just gonna raid them. Let's go. Ikudo.